Stories. I'm your host, Bobby Holmes. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season. Christmas at the Holmes house was nothing less than magical. And it's hard to believe that it's a new year. I feel like I just got the hang of writing the date 2021. But today I'm here with my friend, Stuart Blues, host of British Murders. And if you're a returning listener, you have probably heard our previous collaborations. This is volume 4 of what we like to call Killer British Murder Stories, a mashup of our podcast names. And typically we get together and record 2 episodes, one where I tell a story that airs on Stu's show. And now Stu is here to tell me a British murder story on my podcast. Welcome back, Stu.
Thanks for having me. I'd like to point out that even though we call it Killer British Murder Stories, you always tell a non-British story on my British podcast, which is a little bit confusing.
Yes, and this week it's not even American.
It's just a clever name amalgamation that I'm proud of.
Yes.
But yeah, these are well received episodes.
KBMS is actually what we call it.
Or K-bums. We call them K-bums.
K-bums? Haven't done that in my head. Is that how you say it when you type it?
That's just me. That's just me.
How was Christmas?
My Christmas was good. It was good, thank you. And Happy New Year to all your listeners also. And belated Christmas or whatever. How did the little one get on? Did he get lots of gifts?
Lots. Legos. So many Legos.
See, mine's a little bit younger than yours. So I got her a Lego, like a Minnie Mouse Lego set.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little bit too young for it. It's 4+ and she's 3.5.
Yeah.
So it just gets dismantled and the pieces go everywhere.
Okay, so he's almost 6. This is the first year where he's like, I'm going to keep them together. I want a display case. I just want to play with it. And I'm like, oh, thank the Lord. Because normally we buy them and then it's the $70 Lego set and it's just in pieces and it'll never be put together again. So I'm excited. Yeah, that's mainly what he got.
What was the actual set?
He got 2 Ninjago sets, a Batman set that had Joker, and I'm trying to think of what else he got. Oh, there's one that's like you do have to dismantle it because you can make a pterodactyl and then a T-Rex and a Triceratops. So it's like all the same pieces. You can make 3 different dinosaurs. And there was another one in there somewhere, but yeah, many, many Legos and more Legos because his birthday is coming up in January. So
I'll have to bring them on for his next episode of Killer Creatures.
I know, he probably will. But now that we are in the new year, do you do the whole resolution thing?
No.
I just need to lose weight. I mean, it's not like January 1st, let's lose weight, but I need to.
I'd enjoy starting. Yeah, I need to work out again more because although I play football or soccer, I don't work out through the week. And alcohol consumption has just increased dramatically over the holidays. I was debating doing the whole dry January thing, but here we are on the 2nd and I'm 3 rums deep.
Yes, I have never been able to make it that far. A whole month.
To the 2nd.
Whole week to the 2nd. Yeah, no, haven't. Cheers.
Cheers to you.
So what do you have for us, Stu? What are we talking about this week?
So yeah, cheers for having me back on, as always. This week, as with the volume 3 was the last one. This is volume 4. Mm-hmm. It's a British murder story. Volume 2 wasn't. That was not murder, but it was still pretty bad. The guy was
a British story, at least.
Yeah, British story, but not a murder story. Normally I just do murder. But yeah, this is another one. It's quite a recent one as well. Although this time, unlike Ricardo Linton, this person has actually been sentenced, which is a good start. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you want to update your listeners on the last time I was on. Ricardo Linton was the guy from Jamaica and he killed someone in New York, I think. And then he killed someone in, I forget the city in England. Anyway, he has now been sentenced. And I think I told you ages ago what his sentence was. And as I kill time, I will try and find out. I think he got like 18 years or maybe 20 years. Life sentence, because that's mandatory. But we don't consider life as life here. We get a minimum.
Right. So no matter what, if you commit murder, they say life. But yet they let you out early because that's just how it goes.
Technically. Interesting, because later on in the story, I am going to break down how judges come up with their decisions with regards to minimum sentences, which is quite interesting, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Okay.
quite a long piece of information, so we'll get there. So this story was requested actually by a lot of my listeners. They wanted me to cover this on my podcast, but it's really recent, and I don't like to cover stuff that's too recent, just because like you never know what's going on with regards to the legal side of things, how the family's getting on, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't normally cover recent cases on my show, but I thought I might as well cover it on yours because all bets are off. Who cares if I get flack for doing it on yours? But before I get into the story, let me ask you a question. So this killer is female. If I were to ask you, if I said female murderer, what would you describe that person to look like? What in your head do you see when I say female murderer?
Oh, so honestly, most of the ones that pop into my head have been like attractive females, which, well, I shouldn't say that, but like Jodi Arias that I covered, and oh, what's the one in Florida that killed her little girl? But she's not ugly either. I don't know. I feel like it's like people you don't think are murderers and surprise you.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what pops out, because no one really expects a woman to be a murderer, to be honest.
True. I mean, not attractive, not necessarily like that pig woman from the other
No. Was it a woman though?
I mean,
she now identifies as a woman, so
yeah,
yes,
that's fine.
But go on.
But so, some of our most famous or infamous serial killers that are female include the likes of Rose West, Myra Hindley, Beverly Allett, Amelia Dyer, Marianne Cotton. How many of them?
Hindley's the only one that I know.
At least you've heard of one of them. So she was one of the Moors murderers. So
yes.
they're all basically middle-aged women or older than middle-aged women when they committed their crimes. I wouldn't call any of them lookers, to be honest. I did cover a lot of those stories on my show. If anyone's interested in hopping over the Atlantic to my show, I've already covered Myra Hindley, Beverly Allett, Amelia Dyer on British murders. So get me some more downloads, please. By the way, I call
because you need them.
I need more, guys. It's not enough what I'm
He's doing great. Don't let him fool you.
I'm doing all right. But there's always room for more. By the way, I call my bad guys villains.
Yes, and I actually bring that up in my story, which is really funny that you say that.
I'm not sure why, but I think when I'm trying to tell a story, and I don't like to give, even though the name of the murderer is in the title of the episode, I don't like to give it away in the story.
Not always. Sometimes it kind of depends on which end of it's more popular, because sometimes I do name it after the victim, but it just kind of depends.
Yeah, I like to normally put the killer's name followed by the murder of, and then the victim's name. If it's different, you've got to get creative with it. But that's basically why I call them villains, because I'm a bit weird. But there was another younger female serial killer. I am called Joanna Dennehy, who I also covered. She was younger, not attractive in my opinion, but a lot younger. But bringing it back to my point, this case's killer is a 66-year-old woman. She'd been married to her husband, who was 78 years old, called David Jackson, for 24 years. She's called Penelope Jackson, by the way. And she looks like a typical grandma, retired old lady. And she just doesn't look like a murderer.
You never expect a grandma to be a murderer.
I mean, you wouldn't expect anyone to be a murderer necessarily, but this one in particular is ridiculous.
It's funny though, because the media does always say they don't look like a murderer. It's like, what does a murderer look like then?
Not Penelope Jackson. I can tell you that. I can send you some footage after, and it's ridiculous. But out of interest, how long have you been married?
8 years.
So not 24 years.
No.
Yeah. 24 years is a long time. How old will you be?
We've been together though. Started dating, we were 15. So almost 20 years we've been together.
How old
is that not insane?
Yeah. What year will it be after 24 years of marriage?
Don't make me do math. Please don't make me do math. So we got married and...
So Bobby's 38, add 24 to...
No, let's cut this out. We'll do it later. I don't even know.
Did you miss me calling you 38 then?
Apparently so. I just heard 30. I'm a 30 something. I'm 34, but
We can work out how old you'll be and how old Pen will be afterwards.
Yeah.
That's irrelevant. But this story takes place in Somerset. Have you ever heard of Somerset?
I mean, there's Somerset, Pennsylvania, so I know that, but no, not as far as your
So it's probably
neck of the
named
woods.
after Somerset in England, like everywhere in America.
Maybe.
But it's spelled Somerset, just to make it a little bit harder, not Summer.
No, I think that's how we spell it too.
Well, you copied off us, so of course it is. But it's a county in southwest England. Now, it's famous for producing cider. You a cider fan?
I wouldn't order it. Wait, are we talking regular cider or hard cider?
What's hard cider? I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. What's
okay, so
cider?
it's like spiked cider, like Mike's hard lemonade, but cider with alcohol.
With what? Like Rooflin?
No, like alcohol. No, you've never had hard cider. Okay, so yes.
But cider is alcoholic.
Okay, well, not necessarily here. Apple cider is just like more intense apple juice, like super duper. No? Okay, so
cider is an alcoholic drink in the UK.
Okay, well, we have hard cider.
Fermented apples.
Okay.
So cider, it's basically fermented apples, so it's 4%, 5%. It's like beer, but different, obviously, flavor. You can get.
So we do have that. We just call it hard cider.
Call it hards. Right. Okay. Another logical American thing.
So you don't have normal just apple cider.
We have apple juice.
Okay.
And we have apple cider. One is alcoholic. One is a fresh fruit drink.
Got it. All right.
No. So
another difference.
So you have apple juice, apple cider, and hard cider. So what's the difference? I'm not even getting into this. It's so ridiculous. But have you heard of Glastonbury Festival?
No.
Wow. Okay. So that's a huge festival in the UK. It's around 200,000 people go to this festival. It's absolutely massive. It's like a whole village. The size of it is huge. You got musical acts, dance acts, comedy acts, cabaret, people doing arts and stuff. It's massive. But that's by the by. I really thought you would have heard of Glastonbury Festival.
No.
But why would you? Because it's not in America.
Yeah, I'm a loser. Sorry.
Well, let's bring it back to Penelope Jackson then. So this case, as I say, it was headline news a few months ago. The reason it was headline news is because there was police body cam footage released right after this lady's initial arrest, and she was speaking to the officers on this body cam footage, and it was after she'd killed her husband, David. So we'll just rewind a little bit because I've dropped you straight in there at the deep end. She phones 999. So you're aware that's our version of 911, right? So this was on February 13th, 2021. So the very start of what is now last year. So 11 months ago. So she rings the operator and she says, she basically rings up and says, oh, you know, what you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, my husband's on the floor in the kitchen and I'm in the lounge. And he's like, right, what's happened? And she goes, well, I might just go and stab him again. She's saying this on a 999 call, this little old woman. So the guy says to her naturally, says, please don't go stab her again. Please do not do that. And she goes, why? Yeah.
She got a little something loose up there, it sounds like.
It's not even that. It's like, it's a weirdly, uncomfortably comical. And this is why I think it's been so viral, is because this old lady, she's just like, it's as if it's a bit of a joke and a film that's badly acted the way she's acting. She says on the call that she's compos mentis, which means she's sober and of sound mind. And then she said the operator that with any luck, she said her husband's bleeding to death with any luck. And by the time they get there, i.e. the ambulance guys, he'll have already died. So this call is available online, and I can give you the link for this if you want to put it in your episode description. It's ridiculous. So the operator says, how many times have you stabbed him? So she says, well, I did it once, and then he said I wouldn't do it again, so I did it 2 more times. Like
he dared me.
Yeah, like he did it. She did it to spite him because he said, you won't do that again, won't I? It's like, it's ridiculous. So she said, and this is a quote, by the way, she said, when he said, how many times did you stab her? She goes, once, I thought I'd get his heart. Well, it hasn't got one. And then And
Making jokes on the 999
yeah,
call.
and then twice in the abdomen. This is why it seems surreal. It doesn't feel like it's even real. And this is on news everywhere throughout the country. But the ridiculous thing is, like I said, she sounds like this sweet little old grandma, this old lady, and she was. And it doesn't feel real. You can watch the footage and hear the call, and you feel bad for laughing, but you almost can't help chuckling a little bit at it, which is really, really awful. But the key thing to remember is that someone has been murdered there. They have been stabbed by their wife during that call. So it's really difficult to balance that emotions. Otherwise, you feel a little bit like a horrible person.
So during this call, the husband is still alive?
Well, he's bleeding to death, basically.
Okay. All right.
But
So
I
he's
think
dying.
dying, yes. So I think by the time they arrived, he kind of died at the scene when they were trying to revive him. Because, like I said, she stabbed him once and then stabbed him twice more in his heart that she said he doesn't have, which is just ridiculous.
It's like the Grinch. It's just like 2 sizes too small, so she missed it.
Yeah, exactly. So the coppers get there at about 9:30 that evening, and she says, "Oh, he's on the kitchen floor." She comes outside and says, "Oh, he's on the kitchen floor." Really weird video, which all the
Why
news
even call 911 or 999?
999.
You know?
Well, I think she's it's a strange one because I think she just wanted to admit to it and sort of get some clarification and put a point why she'd done this, because it's a really weird video. Because they say to her, "You're under arrest for suspicion of attempted murder," to which she says, "Well, hopefully it's not attempted." She's like a one-liner stand-up comedian, and then
So she wants it to be murder, not attempted murder.
She wants him to die. She wants him to die.
Yeah.
So they sit her in the police car, and she says, "I admit it all. He's on the kitchen floor. There's nothing nasty. With any luck, you'll be too late." And then she goes, "Can I get my coat?" Because it's February, it's winter. It must have been a cold evening. Yeah, it's a chilly evening. So then one of them, it's so bad. One of them calls for an ambulance. One of the dispatchers says, "Can we get an ambulance, please?" And she goes, "Oh, don't. No, no, no. Please don't." And then she's like, "Oh, I should have stabbed him a bit more." That's what she says. Honestly, it's ridiculous what she's saying. But she goes on to, and I've sort of paraphrased this between the convo between her and the police guy, but this is basically the gist of what she then said before she was taken to the police station. She said, "I stabbed him because he's an aggressive bully and nasty, and I've had enough. And when he said, 'You won't do it,' as in stab me, I did it twice more. With any luck, it'll be too late. I've no intention of not agreeing to what I've done. I know what I've done, and I know why I've done it. And if I haven't done it properly, I'm really annoyed." This isn't a woman who...
She should have stabbed him more then, I guess, right?
She's not swearing.
And she wouldn't be annoyed.
It's ridiculous. So back at the police station, when they got there, they must have found out that David had passed away, bled out because of his injuries. And the officer said, "We're further arresting you on suspicion of murder." And she said, "Oh, good." As in, I got the job done. And she goes, then she asked for her slippers.
Not just her coat. Can I have my coat and slippers?
Yeah, coat and slippers. She apologizes for causing them an inconvenience and sorry for being a nuisance. This little, it's like
so she's still a sweet little old lady.
I mean, a murderous
kind of.
That's how she's coming across, yeah.
But this is like legit what Snapped is about. Like, obviously she's had enough. Something's been, yeah. Okay, yeah. Continue.
But like I said, the weird thing is, it's not just that the body cam footage is available. Why this is weird. These two were in the twilight years of their life. They're both retired comfortably. They've got a daughter, Isabel Potterton, 31-year-old. She was adopted by David from one of his earlier marriages. They both went to her wedding, had a great time. They looked overjoyed on their wedding day. People from the outside looking in said they were just a normal, happy couple. Even Isabel said her childhood was excellent. Both fantastic parents. They said they were a team. They went on holidays. They played games, went through all the hard times as families do, but they got through them. The thing is, when we dig a little bit deeper, we start to get an idea of what Penelope was actually like behind closed doors. She'd been married twice before marrying David, and he'd been married 3 times before. So between them, they've got 5 marriages, before they're actually tying the knot themselves. So they've got experience in this, which makes you kind of think, well, why is that? Why is all the marriages failed? You know,
Yes.
someone's at fault there.
Right.
Another one of David's.
Probably the two of them, two at faults together.
It's not going to work, is it?
No.
But Jane Calverley, who's another one of David's daughters, he's from the first marriage. She said that Penelope had a tendency to make people feel uncomfortable. She's one of these that would like push your buttons and just see how far she could throw passive aggression at you until you kind of just snapped, walked away, or got. You call her a mood hoover. I would call her a mood hoover.
Mood hoover? Never heard that before.
You not heard that one?
No.
A mood hoover, someone who comes in the room and just sucks the energy out of it.
I'm going to use that. Yeah. Mood hoover.
It's a good one. So I was going to ask if you knew that phrase. Turns out you don't.
No.
What if I said that she liked to throw sly digs at people? Would you know what I meant?
Sly digs. I mean, I feel like I would never use that. I've never like formally heard it, but I would know what you're talking about. Sly digs. I know what a dig is. So
yeah, like throwing insults at people like on the sly, as it were. It's great. We both claim to speak English. Jane Calverley paints the picture that her dad was actually scared of Penelope, and he wouldn't dream of leaving her because he was worried about what she would do to retaliate. Allegedly, Penelope once threatened to cut David's penis off if he ever left her.
Like a Bobbit. What's her name? Lynette Bobbit, I think. Something like that.
Who dat?
You don't know that. Oh man. Okay, well then just don't research it. I'll save it for the next.
In fact, I do know that. I think she's the one that chopped the guy's pecker off, isn't it? And then yeah.
That's legit what happened. Yeah.
I remember that one. Poor bastard.
I think he deserved it, if I remember, but I mean it's still awful.
No one deserves that. As a man, no one deserves that ever. But Jane also said that during a period when she herself was having her own marriage problems, she sort of moved in with her dad and Penelope for a little bit. And apparently Penelope at one time turned to her and said, "Oh, it'd be much easier if your husband just killed himself." Like that's a problem to solve, you know. If that is true, ridiculously crazy. The woman is clearly unhinged. We're taking a lot of this is on he said, she said, of course, but the pattern is that Penelope was a little bit toxic in some areas. The thing is about David, he can't obviously defend himself because he's been a victim of this crime. So, and that's when we come on to the trial. That was quite a crucial part as well. She tried to sort of have a go at his character and he wasn't there to defend himself. So the jury had to make a decision on that. Because when she went to trial, she changed the story completely. Rather than pleading guilty to murder, which she thinks she would, saying is that I did it, I know what I've done, I won't change my story. She pleaded guilty to manslaughter rather than murder. So I don't know whether she was trying to go down the diminished responsibility route or that she was in a crazed position in her mind or whatever.
Like, does she know what the difference is? Because stabbing someone, I believe, is straight up murder.
It's like, mate, just look at the body cam footage. Even the coppers even said to her, they were like, look, just stop talking. Because, you know, they say anything you say can and will be used against you. That was definitely the case in this scenario with Penelope. But the other thing, like she needed any more evidence to go against her, she'd written a confession on a piece of paper. It's quite hard to read, but I think this is the gist of what it says from what I could make out with my terrible eyes. It says, "To whom it may concern, I've taken so much abuse over the years. Look at my records, but he was a good daddy. However, the mask slipped tonight. This is/was unforgivable. I accept my punishment. May he rot in hell."
Not rest in peace.
Not rest in
rot
peace.
in hell.
Which is a great
so
sign off.
RIH.
RIH, yeah, great sign off. I've never seen that before. So, you know.
That's what I'm going to start saying. No, just kidding. No, most people should rest in peace.
But the difficult thing with this case, as I said earlier, was that David's side of the story wasn't able to be portrayed. It was just Penelope's side. So they had to take on board the testimony of David's children and stepchildren to get an idea of what Penelope, the defendant, was actually like. There's a guy called Tom Potterton, who was David and Penelope's son-in-law. He said the couple argued every now and again. Who doesn't? But they never had any concerns about escalating further, and they'd normally make up the following day, as most people do. But it seems that the straw that broke the camel's back, have you heard that saying?
Yes.
Yes, that's a common one. Good. The straw that broke the camel's back, as it were, in this case, when David allegedly humiliated Penelope at a meal for her birthday. She was belittled about having bubble and squeak with a steak dinner. And Penelope confronted her. I can see your face.
No, what the hell is bubble and squeak?
Not something you order with steak, apparently.
Okay.
I was going to say I thought I'd lost you there. So bubble and squeak.
Yeah, you did.
It's an old traditional British dish, like a side dish. It's made by, you get cooked potatoes and cabbage, you fry them together in a mixture, and that's bubble and squeak. It was like a staple diet for those less fortunate back in the day. So like,
yeah, but why doesn't that go with
working
steak?
class. It's just a bit working class, and steak's seen as a bit upper class, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's
what
kind
she
of
is mad about.
Luxury versus entry level. It's like buying a.
He made me this peasant food.
Yeah. Well, this is it. So he didn't think that they were a good pair, and
Okay.
he humiliated her, apparently. So she confronted him later that day. I think it was the same day. It doesn't mention anywhere that she killed him on her birthday, but maybe it was after her birthday. But she confronts him about it. And then after that argument, that's when she lunges at him with the kitchen knife, stabs him once, and then she said she was taunted, and that's when she did it twice more. And one of her friends said that both Penelope and David had like very strong opinions on things. They're both opinionated, but they never seemed to be anything other than an average married couple. Grandparents, from a different time. You could maybe say if they had opinions on certain things that wouldn't fly in 2022. 2022 said it. Got it right. The thing is, there must have been realistically years, if not decades, of like passive aggressive comments from both sides, because you don't just really stab your husband of 24 years over something so trivial.
So I said it had to be a snapped kind of situation.
Yeah, I'm not justifying what she's done by any means, but things can't have been as peachy on the inside as everyone thought it was on the outside, because she allegedly had a short fuse and he had a tendency to sulk. So maybe him provoking her after that first stab attack, if that's what happened, that might have been something he's never done before. Maybe he normally, stabbing's a ridiculous example, but normally if she had a go at him, he might just back away into a corner. But by almost answering back, that provoked her to do more rather than take himself away from the situation. We'll never truly know what went on.
I can't remember what episode it was where I talked about the battered woman syndrome, which is basically like you deal with it for years and years and years, and you like just literally snap or whatever. But it's from what everyone is kind of coming forward and testifying, she seems to be not as with it as her husband. Yes, she's the problem.
Yeah. So we won't ever know what went on really, but I think based on what we've heard, one can kind of assume that she just thought, fuck it. She's sick of it, which is what she said in the video. I'm sick of it. He's a bully and all this shit. But there's two sides to every story.
She's also somewhat lived her life, and at this point, maybe she's just like, time to end it, and I'll just live the rest of my life in prison.
Yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? You won't be surprised to hear that after being on trial for 2.5 weeks, that's how long it lasted, the jury dismissed her manslaughter plea, and they instead found her guilty of murder. It took them about 11 hours to deliberate, and they came to the decision, but it wasn't a unanimous decision. It was a majority verdict of 10-2. So it was 8 women and 4 men on the jury. I'm not sure who the two who thought it wasn't murder were, but to me,
I don't see how you could.
I don't get how. I've not seen the ins and outs and the crime scene photos and everything, but based on the evidence, how you can't have guilty for murder.
Manslaughter is like drunk driving, hitting somebody and killing them. That's
it's basically it's murder without intent.
Right. I mean, grabbing a knife and stabbing someone.
Yeah. Now, unless you've got diminished responsibility, or you do it, you would call it by way of insanity. That can be manslaughter. A lot of people use that as a get out clause, but she even said herself she was compos mentis, and basically from what we've seen, she was fully of sound mind. So it's ridiculous that she pleaded for manslaughter. I think that's something that her solicitor, her lawyers have said to her. I mean, clearly, if you and I were on the jury, I think we would both have said guilty by murder.
Yes,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's good. That's good. But so she, as she said, she was a victim of lifetime abuse. Realistically, I think it was either a combination of both, or she gave as good as she got, or she was in fact the abuser. Where you kind of leaning on this one?
Like I said, I feel like other people would have seen or spoke up if he was abusing her. It didn't seem like it was a physical abuse, maybe a mental abuse, like if he made fun of her in front of her friends. I mean, that is some sort of emotional abuse, but to make a scene for being served potatoes and cabbage is also a little kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it's an interesting one. The volume of evidence is ridiculous, and it's all available online if your listeners want to check
Yeah,
it
I'm gonna
out.
have to say the body cam because I just want to know what she looks like also.
How you would picture a little old English grandma, that's what she looks like. Short hair, small, stout's a bit harsh, but just a normal grandma size, I guess. She just looks like your typical grandma. Short hair, the lot, everything. She looks how you picture, in my opinion.
Angry.
But yeah, so we spoke briefly at the start. Life sentences are mandatory for murder in the UK. So she was given a life sentence, but doesn't mean she will have to serve life. Now, she is old, 66. Sorry for anyone listening that's in the 60s, but it's certainly older than being in your 30s. And life, it only means life in the UK if you're given a whole life order. But I said as well, we're going to look into what the judges have to look at as basic starting points for minimum terms. So this is for adults over the age of 21. I found this interesting. Hopefully you guys do too. There's 4 basic starting points when it comes to sentencing someone for murder. So you've got a whole life order, a 30-year minimum, a 25-year minimum, and a 15-year minimum. And I have a bit of detail on each one. So the whole life order, basically, the court has to take the view that the murder is so grave that the offender should spend the rest of their life in prison. For example, the murder of 2 or more people, where each murder involves a substantial degree of premeditation, the abduction of a victim, or the sexual or sadistic conduct. It could be the murder of a child, including the abduction and sexual assault of a child, or a murder done for the purpose of advancing something political or religious. So those are the criteria for a whole life order, or someone who's killed someone before. For the 30-year minimum, that means the offence is not so serious to warrant a whole life order, but it's serious enough to warrant a starting point of 30 years. Examples here: murder of a police or prison officer, a murder involving the use of a firearm or explosive, a murder done for gain, such as a robbery or a burglary, a murder intended to obstruct or interfere with the course of justice, a murder involving sexual or sadistic conduct, the murder of 2 or more people, or a murder that's racially or religiously aggravated or sexually motivated.
Well, weren't those both kind of listed in the other one as well?
They kind of were, but I think the whole life order is something that's exceptionally bad. Basically, this is like your serial killers, the whole life order thing. Sometimes you get a murder that's horrible, but it's just one murder. Whereas your serial killers, often it's more than one, which is one criteria. It's often sexual. It's often horrendously bad, and it ticks a few of those criteria. I don't think it has to tick every one, but it ticks most of them. For the 25-year ones, it's where the offender might take a knife or another weapon to the scene with the intention of committing a crime or having it available to use as a weapon and then using it as a weapon. So it says this increased minimum term doesn't apply in relation to a life sentence imposed for an offence of murder committed before 2nd of March 2010. So I think this is quite a new minimum on there. For all other offences, the appropriate starting point is 15 years, which this one would fall under that criteria. I just want to shout out the Crown Prosecution Service for providing all of that information on their website, cps.gov, I think it is. But I think it's interesting to learn about what judges have to take into consideration, because you think, why have they given him that sentence and not this sentence and that? So that's a bit of an idea, very high level of what they would look at. So Penelope's minimum term was 18 years before she'll be eligible for parole, that is. It doesn't mean she'll be released after 18, but that's when she can apply for parole. By then, though, she'll be 84. So if she has a good run, she'll still be with us. She might not make it, who knows. But after the trial, Detective Chief Inspector Roger Doxey, who I believe worked on the case, he said, David Jackson hasn't been able to respond to allegations of domestic abuse. The key issues for the jury were, would they accept there was a long history of domestic abuse? And secondly, did that domestic abuse justify her loss of control on that evening? The evidence presented was that she was really, really calm. And to hear some of the allegations she's made during the trial, it must have been awful for the family to hear that. She stabbed him not just once, she went back and stabbed him twice more, and she wanted him to die. It's really clear from the evidence. The sentencing judge was Judge Martin Picton. In his closing statement, I love the closing statements. I love them. I have to include them in my cases. I absolutely love reading them.
Do it.
So he said, I have no doubt you intended to kill your husband, and it was a premeditated murder. Your behavior shows a shocking level of callousness. During the 4 days of given evidence, I did not detect a shred of genuine remorse on your part for the crime you have committed. When he was asked why he gave her 18 years and not the guided 15 years, he basically said it was because of the level of physical harm inflicted on David Jackson. And Bobby, that is the story of British murderer Penelope Jackson, 66-year-old grandmother.
Murderer. Man, no, I need to see this little granny. I'm excited for you to share that with us. We'll add it in the show notes.
Yeah, we'll put some linky poos down there.
Linky poos.
Yeah.
Well, this is, like I said, we usually get together, record 2 episodes. So this was our first episode. We'll be ending soon, and then we'll record that will go on Stu's. What, the 13th? You said?
Is yours going out next week?
This week, yeah, this week. So what today? Sunday and Wednesday.
So this will be on the 5th of January. Yes. Mine will be on the 13th of January. So if you're listening to this, you've got another week to wait, but I'm sure it will be worth it. All you Bobby fans will be able to listen to her.
For sure. But tell us where we can find you in case they don't already know.
If you don't already know, or if you hate my episodes, which some people apparently do, whatever, you can find me on Spotify as British Murders, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok. My TikTok's kicking off again at the minute. It's going mental.
Because you're putting effort into it, I'm assuming.
I am again now. Yeah, I am again now.
That's how it works.
I've got a fair few new on there. So, but if you want, I'd prefer people to subscribe on YouTube because I'm trying to get eventually monetized.
The YouTubers are mean.
Yeah, you got a bit of a slate in LA, didn't you? Got shocking content.
Whatever.
Don't blame me. Blame the sources.
Hey, you get similar comments.
Oh, man, I get horrendous shit.
Yeah.
I get horrendous.
Wow.
I had to take a TikTok down the other day because 2 of this guy's kids messaged me, taking it on board that they are this guy's kids. They both asked me to take it down because apparently one of the murderers is due to be released in a week, so it's a bit hectic. So I was like, like the first guy messaged me and I thought, and then the other guy was like, I felt like saying you're the second guy to say that, but I thought, yeah. I just made it private for safe.
Yeah, and add me. I want to see what this is.
I don't need it up. Do you know what I mean? It's not like whatever.
Right. Well, all right. That's the end of Penelope. So do you want to sign us off? You gonna do that?
Until next week. Cheerio.